Welcome back to My Mythical Meta, your gaming podcast that's actually your secret friendship podcast. Welcome back. My name is Travis, and I'm joined this evening by my brother Benjamin.
Hello.
And my great friend Randy.
Howdy.
Unfortunately, Derek is out this week because he's babysitting his niece. I'm not sure if I'm going to give that an excused absence.
No.
Right? It'd be better if he was on a date or something.
Yeah, Valentine's Day was yesterday. I would get it if it was a keeping things interesting evening.
Meow.
But it's just, I don't know, just doing something nice for a family member? I don't get that.
Yuck.
Welcome back to My Mythical Meta. We want to welcome any new listeners who just found us at TCG Con Houston. Welcome to the meta. We are so glad you're here. I hope you guys are giving the pod a good, honest shot. Welcome to the meta. You are so lucky to be listening because if you have any regrets about not picking up dice at the con, we have got you covered. You can still place orders online, and now that you're listening to the podcast, you have just discovered the promo code META, which can get you 10% off your purchase at eldoradogaming.com. I've already had somebody contact me through Facebook saying that they regretted not getting something and that they want something else. So here's your chance. Use promo code META, eldoradogaming.com for 10% off. First, shout out to David, still our number one patron.
Yeah, it was so great to see him at TCG Con.
Yeah, David came out to the con, showed up, said hi. We were so excited to meet you face to face. So glad that you are still a patron even after meeting us face to face. I'm sorry that you got last place in the Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. It sounds like you need to switch to Magic.
Yeah, if you do, come talk to us at the next convention. We can hook you up with some good cards to help build a deck.
That's right. We'll set you up with that Patreon 20% off discount code. That's right, listeners. You heard it right. By joining our Patreon, like David, patreon.com/mymythicalmeta, you can discover a 20% off code for eldoradogaming.com. Not only that, but early and ad-free content, a promise to be ad-free forever with all of the content that you get through the Patreon, and access to the My Mythical Meta Discord server. All four members of the meta, me, Benjamin, Randy, and Derek, we're all present in the Discord server. We want patrons to have a community that's laid back and fun, and we can't wait to see you guys there. Benjamin, what is this week's surprise perk for joining Patreon?
This week's surprise perk for joining Patreon is pictures of my mother as a baby. You join our Patreon, I will dig out the old books, find some cute pictures, maybe some not so cute pictures, and we'll hook you up.
Oh my god.
Black and white on a bearskin rug.
Oh my god. Maybe our baby pictures. Maybe that's what we can do.
Sure. I've got a baby picture of mine on the mantle. You know what? You got it. I'll scan it in.
Yeah,
you got
I have a baby picture of mine on my kitchen wall.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's this week's surprise perk is baby pictures of the members of the meta. So if you're into that, you need to see us as infants. Now's your chance.
I gave one to Nikki a while back. I don't know what is going on exactly in the photo. Well, I mean, I'm probably like 4, but I'm like laying on my side, like leaning up, doing like this kind of like you would if you would imagine like if you're laying on a bed, and you're leaning, you got your legs kind of like, like one's bent up and then and I'm over here like, what's up? So yeah,
Randy, you have to give me that picture so that I can put it in the video.
I'll see if I can find it. It's
okay.
I think I know where it is, so.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a great perk. I love that. A second shout out, not to a patron, but hopefully soon. A shout out to John Tran. He met us at TCG Con, and he went on to Facebook and gave us a 5-star review.
Dang.
Thank you very much, John Tran. We were glad to hook you up with some Magic cards, and it was really great meeting you and hanging out. There was a weird interaction where he asked me if I had Liliana's contract, and the Liliana's contract that I remember having is in my Rakdos Lord of Riots deck, so I had said no, but then as he was flipping, he found it. So we got it all squared away. John Tran has his Liliana's contract now. It was great to hang out with you, John Tran.
John Tran. I wanted to say it too.
This week, we are going to do a quick TCG Con recap. We're going to talk about some of the cool people we met, some of the awesome members of this trading card game community, and some funny stories that we have with some celebrities. And then, in our second half, we will do a brief news from the Warfront. Who wants to start off?
I'll kick us off.
Yeah, kick us off, Randy.
I want to tell like a little quick story. So I was, of course, helping, trying to make the sales, bring people in, get them to look at the merchandise. So this guy was walking by and he kind of like glanced at the table and I was like, hey man, come on in, take a look, feel free to pick up and roll the dice. And then, I do the thing where I normally like ask someone, what is your game of choice? What are you playing right now? So I can try to steer them in, like a certain direction to maybe something that they're interested in. And he said he really didn't, if I remember correctly, I don't want to speak for him, but I think he said like he doesn't really, do much tabletop, but he had the Walking Dead shirt on. And so my first thought was, I was like, well, you're a Walking Dead fan. I'm pretty sure they have some tabletop games that would need dice, so he might be able to look into that and, always going to need dice for that, right?
There's quite a few zombie-themed role-playing games
exactly.
out there.
So
yeah,
he was super polite, and but he's like, no, not this time. So he left. As Travis and I are then walking around later on, a couple hours later, we're walking around the convention floor, and who do I see standing in the celebrity section? That same man. It was Michael James Shaw. The guy from The Walking Dead. And I was like, oh my god. I turned to Travis and I was like, I tried to sell the guy from The Walking Dead dice to play a Walking Dead game. And I was like, he probably has his own game piece in the game.
I know.
Like,
wouldn't that be crazy if there's just a miniature of him somewhere?
Yeah, a miniature or like a player card that has his face on it.
Yeah.
But he also does Corvus Glaive, so there's definitely game pieces of that. And it's just like, I try to sell this man dice to play a Walking Dead game, and he's probably like, I don't want to play Walking Dead, I'm in it.
So embarrassing.
I went up to him. His line was short at that moment, so I went up to him and I was like, yeah, I didn't know you were in The Walking Dead when I tried to sell you dice, to play a Walking Dead game. He was super nice. Just a funny story with Michael James Shaw.
Yeah, that was a really funny moment for me to be on the sidelines for.
It was just like so, I was just thinking,
just
like
watching you walk up and be like, I am so sorry.
Just, Anyway, and then I also want to do a shout out to Pooferfish. They were a stall a couple doors down. They're just really nice folks. I just wanted to give them a shout out. They gave me tons of information about the kind of cards they sell, and even though they're
what was the name of their game? Union Arena?
Well, they had several different. Oh my god, I went through their binders, dude. They had like cards from the '97 X-Men TV series.
Wow.
Union Arena was the stuff that I ended up buying from them, even though it was all in Japanese and I don't know how to play the game. I don't know how to read the cards, but I was like, they're really nice. I just want to support them. YOLO, maybe I'll get a cool card. Yeah. And I did, I ended up pulling a like $100 card and I was like, this is cool. Of course, I pull it and I'm like not knowing, and they all start freaking out. And I'm like, what is it?
Oh my gosh. Were you able to sell it back to them, or do you?
No, I'm keeping it.
Okay,
it's got Hisoka on it, and I love Hisoka from Hunter x Hunter.
Oh, that's cool, from Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, it's got a nice foiling to it, and so it's really, really cool. So I'm like, no, I'm gonna keep it. It's a $100 card.
That's really neat. Yeah, that you pulled like the chase rare of a character. Yeah.
So yeah, they're just super nice, super friendly. It was so interesting going through all the cards. I bought cards for a game. I don't even know which one it is. I think it's called BAM. But I'm just going to use them as proxy lands for Magic. But they just had a really cool, kind of land art. And so I'm just going to use them. They even had a 4/4 dragon token or card, and I was like, I'm gonna use this as a dragon token.
Oh, nice.
That's perfect.
Yeah. Anyway, just shout out. They deserve a little attention.
Awesome, yeah. I said it before the con in our episode for that, but truly going to TCG Con is really special for me. I assume it's special for you guys too.
Yeah.
It is very different from the other pop culture cons. It felt like we had an immediate kinship with all of these convention attendees. Benjamin and I experimented with selling some Magic cards and Benjamin some Pokemon cards from his personal collection, and wow, what an awesome experience to have people coming up and telling us about the decks they're building. We were able to give some people some deck feedback, some cards that would be good. There was a guy who came up, he was basically asking me how to make an Enchantment Voltron, green and white commander deck. And that is right up my alley. I've done that many times. I've had Sigarda, Host of Herons. I've had Kestia the Cultivator. I have Uriel the Miststalker right now. So green-white Enchantment Voltron is one of my favorite archetypes out there. So I was just rattling off cards for this guy to look for and to find. It was a really neat experience. Benjamin and Randy, did y'all have any experiences like that with interacting with some Magic players?
Yeah, I had 2 different guys come up and they were building various black decks, and of course black is my specialty. One was building a black-white sacrifice deck, very similar to my Shirei.
Oh, that's right.
Type deck.
What's the name of the actual commander for that deck?
The commander is Nethroi.
Nethroi, that's right.
Yeah.
Nethroi, and then you get out Shirei as fast as possible.
Exactly. So somebody was doing that, and now at the time it was mostly your cards that were out. I was still in the process of putting them out. And so I loved flipping through your cards, finding all the black-white sack outlets, and knowing, hey, you need this card, and then going and hunting for them in your binder.
Yeah.
The other experience that I thought was really cool was a guy, he was looking to make a lot of cheap black creatures, commons and uncommons that nobody carries at a con, and I just so happened...
Oh, right. I remembered him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just so happened to have my big box of black commons and uncommons handy, and I could just be like, hey, go through these, and he went and picked out, I think he basically built a whole deck out of cards I had handy for him.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it was
to
awesome.
Just be there and watch somebody as they start twisting the gears and knobs and seeing it work in real time in front of you.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That is so cool. That's how it felt the whole time. I had my binders arranged by legendary creatures just because I know how commander players think, because that's how I think. It made me so happy to see that wide-eyed wonder when they would see an old commander that hadn't been reprinted in 5 years. To see the face of somebody who sees Edgar Markov for the first time.
Right?
They've heard about it. It's a boogeyman in their local shop, but they never had the opportunity to buy the card until now.
It's like that Santa Claus M&M commercial. They do exist.
He does exist.
Yeah, it was really cool to have that happen several times. And to have people scrolling through my binder being like, oh my god, this card is so old, I can't believe you have it. Or people buying my old partners that I wasn't using. I sold my Thrasios.
What?
I did, yeah.
Dang.
I sold Thrasios. I forget the rest of his name.
It's Antimna.
Yeah. Triton Hero.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I sold my Thrasios Triton Hero. The person said he was getting ready to build a CEDH deck, and I was like, well, that's the one you need.
Yep.
But I mean, these are cards that haven't been... That card came out in 2016. It has been reprinted a time or two. Commander Legends, and he was a special guest in Ixalan. But to see the face on people who just started playing 2 or 3 years ago, to see these older cards.
Yeah.
It was really special. A really cool day. Benjamin, any other celeb stories?
Well, I'm going to leave the big one, our shared one, to you, but I do want to talk about Sarah Finnegan. My wife really loves her art. My wife's not a big fan of a lot of Magic art. A lot of it's gruesome or too digital or whatever, but Sarah Finnegan makes a lot of lands and landscapes, and from across the room, when my wife, who also happens to be named Sarah, saw that, she's like, I want to go visit that booth. And we went over there, and unfortunately her prints were a little too expensive for us to get into, but she was nice. She gave our kids some stickers, and we generally just got to sit there and look at her different pieces and all of that, and it was really cool.
Yeah, and that's kind of how my experience was with Miranda Meeks with Randy. You know, we were walking around, we saw Miranda Meeks. She's another magic artist, and she had 2 sections of prints, but then most of her booth was playmats. Mm-hmm. Prints of hers that she had printed out onto playmats for us. We saw lots of her art that was not magic cards. She has this awesome horror imagery. Randy, do you remember that one of the deer skull?
Yes.
With all that felt still hanging off of the antlers?
Yeah, it was like bloody felt.
Oh,
I describe
so
it
cool.
as like hauntingly beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. I bought a playmat from her. It's like some hands coming out of the water, but they're also wrapped up in tentacles too. Mm-hmm. So like this very otherworldly kind of horror imagery.
Yeah.
That you don't actually see in a lot of her magic cards. But we were talking to her about her magic art, obviously, and she was so funny because she told us that she does play Magic. She knows the rules of the game and how it's played, and she told us about some cards that she did the art for that she really likes because they were really good cards, and then other cards that she did the art for that were just bad. And she's like, well, a card's a card, and I get paid the same either one, whether the card is bad or not. So we were looking at Indulging Patrician, which was one of her cards that's so beautiful. Mm-hmm. This like red moon in the background with this vampire in a white dress holding the body of somebody she's just bitten. And then she was like, yeah, my friends told me that this was a really good card. And then they told me that Moonlit Scavengers was a really bad card. So Randy and I are looking it up right there. And the art, again, is amazing. These 2 murky merfolk kind of walking out of this
bog.
I don't know, haze, this fog, and they're carrying nets. But the card itself is awful. It's a common from Throne of Eldraine. It costs 6 mana for a 4/5, and whenever it enters the battlefield, you return a creature and opponent controls to its owner's hand.
If you already control an artifact or enchantment.
You have to control an artifact or enchantment already in order for the effect to go off.
And then pay 6 mana.
A 6 mana unsummon?
Ugh!
On a 4/5 body that also checks to see if you have an artifact or enchantment?
Yeah.
Which means you had to have, like, invested in something else beforehand? She's like, but a card's a card, and I'm still really proud of the art. And I've got to say, this particular art came up when I was looking for inspiration art for my Merfolk Pirate.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. This is a character I've mentioned a couple times that I'm still playing right now in Randy's Pathfinder game, and this art came up for it. So if you're watching the video, this art will be up. Miranda Meeks is amazing. Her art is simply stunning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also wanted to give a shout out to a local collector that I had a great time chatting with. His name was Bill Todd. He had a bunch of one-of-a-kind or very limited edition gaming memorabilia and collectibles, comic covers, vinyl covers that had been touched up by artists. You know, I spent a lot of time just staring in awe at all the stuff he had on display, and I'm looking forward to trying to find his local shop and doing more on that because it was amazing. And he was super friendly. Talked me into buying all the pieces I needed for a mill deck. I had a lot of fun there.
Cool. I'll do our shared story. So Benjamin and I were breaking down the booth after the entire convention had closed, and we had just finished loading all of our stuff into the van, and Benjamin is in the driver's seat. His daughter Margaret stayed with us to help break down too, and I was walking back in through the loading doors to walk through the convention center to get to my car, and I see somebody waiting at one of the tournament tables by themselves. And I look just a little bit closer, and it's Michelle Knotts. This is the voice actress who Benjamin had said in our hype episode for the con that he was really excited to see because she did the voices for Misty, Jessie, May, Nurse Joy in the later seasons of Pokemon. I mean, this is a core memory for the both of us.
Yeah.
And she was just sitting there by herself waiting for her ride after breakdown. So I get Benjamin on the phone, because I don't want him to drive away. And then I walk up and I say, "Sorry to bother you. Are you Michelle Knotts?" And she says, "Yes." She's immediately super friendly and polite. She said she's just waiting for her ride since she was staying for an extra day. So she didn't need, to add on to the rush from all the other celebs' hospitality stuff, getting taken to their hotels or airports or whatever. So I tell Benjamin on the phone, "Hey, come back in. You can meet Michelle Knotts. She's just sitting here at the tables." And Michelle gave both Benjamin and I signed prints for free.
Yeah, she was super friendly. I was really glad you called me. Good job.
Yeah. And I mean, I was like, "Are you sure? I can pay for the print, whatever." And she said, "Oh, no, don't worry about it." I mean, basically insisted. So we always love to see celebs who are humble and gracious and makes it seem like they're one of us.
Yeah.
And they appreciate that we love their talent, whatever they put out.
Yeah.
My last story is about Larry from Team APS. If you're following our Instagram or Facebook, I got a picture with him, and this was another story of him just walking through the main convention floor. He walked in front of our booth. I just kind of shouted out, "Team APS, woo!" expecting him to just continue walking past, but he didn't. He came right up to the booth. We started talking. I told him about my Yu-Gi-Oh journey, that I had really only played Yu-Gi-Oh for about 6 months when Yu-Gi-Oh Master Duel came out, and I told him that I thought it was really cool that he and Team APS had done that crossover stuff with the professor on Tolarian Community College, where they made him play Yu-Gi-Oh and then he made them play Magic. And he told me that he had been really getting into Magic ever since then. He was telling me about a deck that he made, and eventually he bought cards from our booth. So that was super exciting for me. I was really nerding out to see that this influencer was gonna buy Magic cards for me. How weird. How bizarre. I had no idea. This Yu-Gi-Oh influencer was gonna buy Magic the Gathering cards from me. That was just a really cool story that I couldn't have expected going into the weekend. It was so much fun. Anything else y'all want to add to our TCG Con recap?
No, just had a great time. Can't wait to do it again. Hopefully we get to see more people next time.
Yeah, I agree. Benjamin?
We lost Benjamin.
Benjamin, are you there?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute.
Aww.
I was talking to several times. I wanted to shout out CJ Lounge.
Oh, yeah.
So he came by both days. He had
Yeah.
the coolest shirts that he designed himself, Magic-based art, but obviously his own art. He's not stealing from the great Magic artists that we got to meet or that are out there. Magic-inspired art, and he was so friendly. Couldn't tell if that was his wife with him?
I don't know, but she was with him at Onicon, too.
Yeah.
So best friends, wife, girlfriend, who knows? But both of them were super nice at Onicon, and then it was cool to reconnect and see them again. Yeah. And I'm thinking about some El Dorado Gaming collabs with him in the future.
Yeah, I think that would be so cool, because his art is fantastic, and I loved his shirt. So
yeah.
Hopefully he gets to hear this and appreciates the shout-out, because I really did love getting to meet him and talk to him more this time.
For sure, and we will link to his Etsy shop in the show descriptions.
Awesome.
All right, that is our TCG Con recap. Our top-selling dice this convention were the Treasure D6s. This is pretty funny for me, actually, because they're not usually a top seller at cons, but it does kind of make sense that just the D6s were our top seller here, because our customers were card gamers. They're people who just need counters. So that was really cool, and I recommend you pick up your own at eldoradogaming.com. Are we ready for news?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's jump right into news from the Warfront. Our post this week comes from our Dungeons & Dragons, and the post is literally only a title. There's not even a body paragraph in this post. It's just somebody asking, how do you encourage teamwork in your D&D group? And I just thought, what a great topic for the meta to tackle. This is exactly up our alley about how to encourage groups to work well together, especially in role-playing games. Dungeons & Dragons is what this person was asking about specifically, but we've got experience from the Mage game that we've been playing, and we have lots of experience from the game that I'm in with Derek and Randy, and all of our significant others too, our Pathfinder games and our D&D games. We're excited to talk today, just briefly, about encouraging teamwork. These are things that the DM or the players can do to ensure a well-working team. My first piece of advice here goes back to our session 0 advice, and it's about making the characters. Whenever the characters are being made in the beginning of the game, before the game even starts, make your characters with a group in mind. Establish roles before the game even begins. What are the responsibilities going to be for each person? That way, you need an entire cohesive group in order to be successful on your missions or on your adventures. And then, once you have those roles established, establish relationships between those characters that keep them together. Something outside of the adventure you're in that has these people staying together anyway. Master and apprentice, brother and sister, childhood friend. It doesn't have to take a whole lot of effort to create a relationship where people care about each other just for that reason. You know, it doesn't have to be anything bigger than family. Right. You know, bring Dom Toretto into your game and say, we're family, and that's why we stick together. It could be anything. Randy, you had some cool literal gameplay ideas, like even things you can do in combat for things that can encourage teamwork. What were some of your ideas as a DM and then as a player?
So one of the ones that I just recently kind of heard about was doing a shared group initiative. And a lot of time in, D&D games, you roll for initiative and then you go in that order. By doing like a shared group initiative, it allows people to be like, okay, I'm going to do this to set you up for your action. So it helps it. So like, let's say Derek wants to go in and knock down an enemy and knock them prone or disarm them. Well, then it kind of stinks if that person goes next, that enemy NPC goes next and stands up or picks up their weapon.
Yes.
And it's like, cool,
Oh
wasted
my
my turn. Now my friends don't get any advantages that they would have. Now, of course, it goes for the same for the enemies, Right. It's going to make it where I guess combat it's going to hit harder, but that's both ways. But it allows you to say like, oh, I want to move out of the way so they can do their spell, and then I'll come in afterwards, or let me get set up so that I know where the person is when you cast darkness. I don't know, things like that.
I think this is a really cool idea, and I am really looking forward to seeing it in action in our Pathfinder game, because my Merfolk Swashbuckler does exactly that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, he uses a whip, and so disarming and grappling and moving people around the battlefield, tripping, and all of those like non-standard attack moves. I'm excited to see what can be done by disarming someone before Derek goes in to suplex them.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like a lot of times certain game actions aren't taken because if they're not done in the right order, then they're going to be, like I said, they're going to be useless. But like I said, the person can just stand back up. And so it's like, well, I'm never going to use the trip ability because 90% of the time, it's not ever going to get used effectively.
Yeah, like if the person doing the tripping goes first in the round, and then your rogue just rolled low, and then the person being tripped just stands up, the rogue doesn't get their sneak attack even though I tried to help.
Yeah.
I really am looking forward to seeing this in action and just experimenting with it. I'd love to see a group of an enemy's goons actually coordinate and do something cool.
Yeah.
If we get the chance to do the same thing. Like, that just seems exciting to me. So do you still have everybody roll for initiative, and then you just take the lowest one? Or do you take the highest one?
I'm trying to remember how they did it. Maybe I'll just do it where everyone rolls, and I'll take the middle for both sides.
Oh, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out day of.
That's how our group likes to do it, baby.
Yeah, or it could just be take the highest from each side, and it's like, well, one enemy player, I guess, like rolled better than y'all, so he's going to start, and everyone's going to go off of him.
Yeah. Okay.
Like I said, I think it gives you the advantage for y'all to possibly one-shot certain encounters faster. But also, if the enemy gets the upper hand, then
if they get the drop on us, it could be just as devastating.
Yeah, exactly. Which can be more exciting because there's more tension and there's actual threat of death.
Yeah, high drama. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I do want to say, like, there's certainly precedent set for combat acting like this. I mean, Fire Emblem does this, Warhammer 40k does this, where one person does all of their moves. They control their entire army all at one time. And then the other person switches, or the other side switches. In Fire Emblem, it's like this. I control 10 different people, but I get to move them one right after the other without the opponents doing anything in between. And so if I need to make sure that one person is dead by the end of the round, I can put 3 people on them. You know what I mean? If it were the other way, where I get to move one person, they get to move one person, I get to move one person, they get to move one person, that is an entirely different game that really takes a lot of planning out and becomes a much more reactionary game. I have to react to what the other people have done every turn, rather than getting the opportunity to plan. Listeners, if you want to weigh in on some possible pros or some possible cons of a shared group initiative in combat, let us know. Reach out to us. This, I think, sounds kind of experimental in a role-playing game. Pathfinder D&D has never done this. So if you've tried it out, let us know how it went.
Another, I think, good idea is just by encouraging roleplay between players outside of combat. It's maybe kind of tangential to what you were saying with like establishing relationships between the characters.
Yeah.
I tried to do that some in our last D&D game with giving y'all downtime, and it's like, what do y'all want to do? You know, hoping that like y'all would do stuff together, but by getting y'all to cooperate, you know, situations that don't involve combat.
Yeah.
Group initiative in combat, group role play out of combat, and just kind of be y'all talking out in character and, and let that camaraderie form in character.
Yeah.
And so that'll just naturally pair you up and want to help each other in other ways to like set up the alley-oop, you know, and just, all right, I tripped him. Derek, you go in for the slam kind of things.
Yeah. I attempt sometimes to do this in our mage game as well. For example, in our last session, you guys were kind of talking out of character about whether you trust the people you're working for or not. And y'all were just saying, do we think this guy's good? Do we think this guy's bad? What are your thoughts about him? And I kind of planted the seed, like, these are conversations you could have in character if you wanted. Is River saying that kind of stuff to Thomas, or is she holding it to herself? You know, if y'all want to have these conversations about the people you're working for, I think that's a great conversation for your characters to have. And we didn't have to, like, rewind, have people start talking in character to have the conversation. Okay, we don't have to re-have this conversation, but now we know what our characters are thinking about and what side our characters are leaning towards in this brewing conflict. So I thought that was cool. It's another way to build trust between you guys, to just say, listen, if y'all were talking out of character about all these issues, maybe your characters were just having coffee and had that conversation.
Right.
Just stuff like that.
And then highlighting individuals in different sessions so that one player doesn't kind of think that they're the main character and they don't get main character syndrome where they try to make every session about them.
Right.
I know in that same last game that I ran of D&D, because I know y'all so well, I was able to try to give everyone a little bit of the spotlight. I tried to as best I could. How well that worked on some days, I don't know.
I thought you did a great job.
Yeah.
And that is the model that I'm following in my mage game right now.
Aww.
You know, by just saying, this episode, this week, Derek is going to be the star. I'm going to highlight his abilities this week. And so the other players, like, they know ahead of time, I'm going to be supporting cast in this episode. Because then they also know that an episode is coming up where they will be the star, if they haven't been already.
Right. Yeah, I think it really encouraged, for example, in our last game, you know, I was happy that somebody else was highlighted because it meant that I could use my character to kind of boost them rather than trying to solve the problem. Like, I knew, okay, it's not my job to be the hero. It's my job to be the supporting character. It put me in the mindset of teamwork. You didn't have to come out and say, y'all are a team, and therefore you need to use teamwork in this episode to make it work. You know, by saying this is, or heavily implying this is Derek's one. I'm doing this as a way to highlight his character and his person, you know, his own personality, and I think this has been designed for him. I knew that I could work on just enabling what was going to happen, and it created a sense of teamwork without forcing it. And I think that as long as your players are the type who will play along with what you have in mind, this is a great way.
Yeah, and in that last game, I really enjoyed, it was Derek's episode more or less, but, even the supporting thing, where when he was in that, like, faux, I can't remember what it is exactly, but, he was...
Where he was controlling that avatar monster.
Yeah, the avatar monster, and it's like, just, like, making him basically, like, power up and go basically Super Saiyan, using my character's abilities to enhance physical attributes.
Evolve.
Yeah. It's like he's still getting to do the really cool thing. He's the one that gets to power up and gets to do the big hyper beam and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I helped him do that. Like that's cool. Like I took him to the next level. He went from regular Godzilla to blue spine Godzilla.
Yeah.
Man, we need to play more Mage, y'all.
We do.
Hey, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I got those 2 more adventures. I have y'all's adventures ready.
Benjamin?
So I'm not as experienced at DMing as the two of you are, but I've been thinking and planning the Martian Colony game, and I guess I DM'd a lot, when y'all were younger and when we were running neighborhood games or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But my thought on this one has always been you create an adventure or a mission or something where it's literally impossible for them to do it on their own. For example, if somebody has a really stupid barbarian or warrior that's beefed up or whatever, you make sure you include some sort of puzzle that their character is not smart enough to solve. Or if you have these high level spellcasters or whatever that can cast these reality warping spells, make sure you put something behind a lock that requires a pick.
Yeah. Just a physical anti-magic lock.
Yes, very simple.
Or an anti-magic block of stone.
Exactly.
Or whatever.
And, make sure you put things so that throughout an adventure, every single character gets their chance to be the one that solves the problem. And yeah, maybe it means that they're not the ones doing the big thing at the big time, but it still lets them be the hero of the moment where everyone goes, man, I'm glad we didn't leave them behind. Glad you were here.
Yeah, for sure.
And so just sticking those things in there whenever you get a chance to, and finding places to let people's abilities shine. And then I guess that kind of goes along with the other thing I was going to say, which is just creating in your story places where people have to step up. That could be, because they have the abilities that no one else has, but it could also be by creating narrative structure where that's the only person who can advance the story. So-and-so's brother is there, and they're the one, no one else can convince them, but maybe your family bonds can be the one that make them change their mind.
Yeah, that's really good.
By empowering each person at a different time, making different people indispensable at different times, requiring people to work together so that they can't get main character syndrome, I feel like it naturally leads to teamwork because the story can't advance without everyone.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think this is a good episode. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I had fun.
Benjamin, hit us up with some words of wisdom.
We spent most of our time talking about a convention when the true heart of this was about teamwork. But I want to let all of our listeners know that the convention was like a role-playing session, and I was there with my team, with the people that I count on to make stuff like that a success, and we couldn't have done it without each other. Each of us brought something to the table, and so take even the little things we said now and think about ways that you can make other people the heroes of specific parts of your story. Use your powers not to beef yourself up, not to make yourself go Super Saiyan, but someone else, and encourage teamwork in your own life, and that's really what this podcast is all about, right? We talk about gaming, but it's really about friendship. And that's true for when you're the DM, and it's true when you are on a grand adventure like Eldorado Gaming or our friendship. Thank y'all for this weekend. It was great.
This weekend was so much fun. I had a blast. I am looking forward to the next one. And the next one and the next. That is my favorite part of having joined Eldorado Gaming and having a great group of friends to help make it work.
Yeah.
Randy, I'm waiting for you to compliment us.
I love being y'all's friends.
There we go. Please remember that you can find us at Eldorado Gaming TX on YouTube, patreon.com/mymythicalmeta. You can also contact us directly at mymythicalmeta@eldoradogaming.com. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a review, a 5-star review. I hope you guys have a great week, and we look forward to the next one. Adios.
Bye.
Later.
This episode was sponsored by Eldorado Gaming. Use the promo code META for 10% off your order. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This episode was edited by me, Travis Konishek, and our intro and outro music is by Tyler Heath of the Oh Hellos.